Hello everyone and welcome to the Kiki London YouTube channel. My name's Amanda and in today's video we're going to be doing a gel polish nail design using the new pastel neon colours along with some of the classic neon colours. So I really hope you all enjoy watching. Now for today's video, I'm going to be working on a silicone practice hand and I have already applied my tips to act as the natural nails. Now you could also do this design on top of a layer of builder gel, so you could build your nails up using the Kiki London Easy Build Up Gel and then do your gel polish design on top. But because I'm mimicking working on a set of natural nails, I'm going to come in and start off with my base coat. Obviously, if you were doing this set on yourself or a client, you would do all of your prep first. I do have a dedicated prep video which I will leave in the description box below, so check that out if you've got any questions on how to prep the nails. So to begin this set, I'm going to start by applying the rubber base coat, and I'm just applying a thin layer of this to the entire nail. I really like to work this in to the natural nail plate and then just float my brush over the top of it to get a nice smooth application. The rubber base coat is perfect for any clients who have got weak or damaged nails because it adds that layer of strength. I also find it great on myself because I'm quite hard on my nails, so it's also a fab product for anyone like hairdressers or cleaners, you know, those clients who are a little bit rougher on their nails. Once I had cured that base coat, I'm going to come in with my nude. So the nude I chose to use today is the gorgeous Ballet Charm. I love this colour and I just haven't used it enough. So when I was going through my nudes looking for one for today's video, I'm so glad I chose this one because it is such a gorgeous colour. Now when it comes to applying the first coat of colour, I like to apply a really thin layer of product. So I wipe a lot of that gel polish off my brush and I just leave a small amount at the tip of the brush. This way I'm able to control the product and get a nice neat cuticle line. So I'm able to get nice and close up to that cuticle, around the side walls, and then I've got enough left on my brush just to cover the entire nail plate. Now, when it comes to applying your first coat of colour, you really don't need to worry about any coverage or how opaque it's looking because you're going to get that opaqueness from the second coat of colour. So with this first coat of colour, I just focus on getting a first base of the colour down and getting a nice neat cuticle application. I love the Kiki London gel polish brushes because I find they fan out really nicely. So if you apply a gentle amount of pressure, the brush is going to fan out and it's just going to go up nice and close to that cuticle area. You'll see that when I press the brush down, I'm kind of shimmying it up towards the cuticle. Now that first coat of colour is applied, I'm going to pop that in my Kiki London lamp to cure for 30 seconds. And this is what one coat looks like. So it's a really lovely creamy nude / pink shade, but you will see the true colour once I come in and apply this second coat of colour. So when it comes to applying the second coat of colour, I leave a little bit more product on my brush and I apply this more in a floating motion rather than a brushing motion, if that makes sense. I'm kind of not pushing it in to the base coat like I did with the first coat. I'm more just pushing it up towards the cuticle and then floating the rest of the product down. I do find when you're applying that second coat of colour, you don't have to stress as much about creating a nice neat cuticle line because you have already created that with the first coat of colour. You've just got to make sure that you neatly come over the top. Now if you do struggle getting a neat cuticle line using the gel polish brush, then I would recommend coming in with the Kiki London detail brush, and then you can just touch up around the cuticles and get a little bit closer with that. Another thing that I always find as well, when I'm pushing my product up towards the cuticle area, I like to really tilt the nail downwards. That's going to stop the product running back and flooding your cuticles. Now, how gorgeous does this colour look once you have applied that second coat of colour? It's one of my favourite nudes now. This is such a gorgeous colour. I really need to get it on my own nails. So this is what it looks like once that second coat is cured. Now, because I'm going to be coming over the top of this with some Nala, I decided to put down a layer of matte top coat. So I'm going to use the Kiki London No Wipe matte top coat here. Now, I personally, when I'm doing videos, I find it a little bit easier to put a matte top coat down because then the camera isn't reflecting against the shiny surface and you're able to see what I'm doing a little bit better, if that makes sense. However, you can skip this step if you wish. You can just apply your gel polish nail art straight over that base color that you've applied. For me, it's a little bit of personal preference. I do find it easier for recording to work over a matte surface because there's not that glare. But I do also as well find it a little bit easier to paint over a matte surface because your color doesn't run or as bleed as much. And then once that matte top coat has cured for 30 seconds, how gorgeous do these nails look matte? I've probably said it in several videos, but I'm a huge fan of a matte nail and I thought this colour looked amazing matte. But moving on to our gel polish colours. So I'm going to be using 4 colours from the Neon collection and then 4 colours from the Pastel Neon collection. So let's take a look at the neons first of all. So we have Diva, which is a gorgeous purple. Then we have Acid Green, which is a really bright neon green. It kind of reminds me of a highlighter green. Then we have a Raving Doll, which again is like a highlighter pink. And then we have Yellow Caution, which is a very classic neon yellow. Then we have 4 colours from the new Pastel Neon range. So we have Purple Rain. I love Purple Rain, it's one of my favourites. Then we have Limelight, which is a really beautiful softer green compared to the neon green. And then we have Chick Flik, this is another one of my favourites. And then the amazing Glow Stick. So this is what they look like on my palette. We've got those classic neon colours at the top and then the neon pastels underneath. And I thought I would give it a go pairing them up to see how they look together. To apply these, I'm going to be using my trusty stripe liner brush. I would not be without this brush. It is an absolute game changer for any hand painted nail art. And I probably say this as well in every video, but I tend to use this brush in nearly every set I do because it's so versatile and you can use it for so many different things. Now on to the design. So for this design, I wanted to have tips like French tips, but I didn't want them to be neat French tips. I wanted this wavy sort of V-shaped French, and I didn't want them all to look exactly the same because I just thought it'd be something different to do with the bright colors. So I'm going to do the same on all of the nails. I'm going to use the pastel neons at the tip, and then I'm going to come in and outline them with the classic neons. So on the first nail, I was kind of just winging it, seeing how it would turn out to see if I liked the design before I decided if I was going to do the same on all of the nails. So that's why I'm faffing around on this now a little bit just to see if I like it. The main thing that I'm going to be doing is making sure that the sides come roughly down to the same size and that they do all have that V look to them, that V sort of shaped French, so that you can still see that it's a bit like an alternative French tip. And then I've just done wonky lines basically, painted one across and then the second one across, and then I'm going to fill in the tip area with that colour. At this point you could swap and use the Kiki London round brush or your Kiki London bottle brush to fill in the tip, but I quite like doing it with the stripe liner brush because I really liked going along the very edge of the nail with the pink. So you'll see here, or you'll see in a moment, I come right along that tip of the nail with the Chick Flik just to make sure that it's fully covered. So when you're looking at the tip here, you can see it. I'm just making sure that's fully covered in, that you can't see any of the ballet charm underneath. I also just wanted to mention that I am flash curing each nail for 10 seconds just so I don't smudge them, and then I'll pop them all in for a full 30-second cure once I've done this step on all of the nails. There I was just showing you guys that I really like to load up my brush with the gel polish. So I really like to make sure that it's got through all of the bristles in the brush, that there's not too much on the brush, but there's a nice amount that you can get a good neat application. And then I like to just dip back and forwards into that gel polish, applying more when it's needed. You don't necessarily want to have too much on your brush when you first paint that line down, because otherwise it's a little bit harder to control the gel polish. Now the other thing is with the Limelight, it did look a little bit yellow and a little bit sheer because I'd only done one coat over the ballet charm. So this was the only colour out of the 4 that I did decide to come in and do a second coat on, just so it really popped and so the green shone through. I think where I was working over the nude base, it threw the colour off a little bit because Limelight is very green and very bright usually. Moving on to the little finger, as you can see, I'm doing exactly the same with the glow stick. So I just go across, draw that wiggly line on, and then draw another wiggly line to meet that one in the center. I did make a little bit of a mistake on this one, so I will show you guys how I fix that up. But again, just filling in that section with my stripe liner brush and making sure to really go around the tip of the nail. You don't want to be able to see any of that ballet charm at the end of the nail because it just doesn't look as pretty. It looks a whole lot more even if you do just take the time to cap around the edge with the colour that you're going to be using on the tip. So here I wasn't 100% happy with how I'd created my line. It looked a little bit messy. So what I've done is I've taken my Kiki London round brush, dipped it into a tiny amount of alcohol, and then I've just cleaned it up with that. And then I'm just coming back in and touching up the very tip of the nail using that stripe liner brush. So now that we've got the tips painted on all of the nails, I'm going to pop them in for a full 30-second cure, and this is what they looked like. So this was where I decided I just felt as though I wanted the green to pop a little bit more. So I'm going to come in and just go over the top of that with a second coat of colour. You do need to be really careful when you're doing a second coat of colour because you don't want to start creating new lines. You want to make sure that you paint over the top of those wavy lines you've already created on the first coat. Otherwise, if you start creating a new line, it will end up looking a little bit patchy or uneven, or you'll get some shadowing between the colours. So I'm just being really careful that I'm only going over the top of the line that I've already created. And you can see once you add that second coat of limelight, it really pops and it is such a gorgeous green. And this is what our nails look like so far. I really loved these, to be honest, with the different colour pastel neon tips. If I was doing a thumbnail, I definitely would have added in holiday blues to this set. So now that we've finished the pastel neons, we're going to come in with our classic neon. So as you can see, I've chose each colour that matches. So we have the same purple, pink, green and yellow. Now here I'm going to take Diva, and what I'm going to do is very carefully draw along that wavy line that we created with the purple rain and kind of just outline it with that matching purple colour. Now this was the first nail I did, so again I'm kind of just winging it, finding out what works, how thick I want it to be, so that I can then get the rest of the nails to match this one. I didn't want the line to be too thick, but I wanted you to be able to see that pop of colour, so I'm just thickening it up here and there just so you can really see that splash of purple. And I loved it. I felt as though it just gave off a really dimensional look to the nails. If you wanted to keep them more simple, you could just stick with the one colour on each tip, but adding the matching classic neon colour, I felt as though it just really brought the tips out a little bit more. Another design that I thought would look really good as well is if you left all of the nail matte and only top coated over where I'm applying the classic neon. I just thought that would be another really cool design as well. Now this is one of the reasons why I love the stripe liner brush, because once you apply a little bit of pressure to it, the product flows really lovely from the brush to the nail. It fans out ever so slightly, so it works really well for creating straight lines, but it also works really well when you want to create a wavy line but still keep it nice and neat and have plenty of control over the product. So you'll see here I place my brush down and I'm just following along that line, and the product just flows effortlessly from the brush to the nail, and it all keeps it nice and neat and nice and thin because the stripe liner brush itself is very thin. And then I'm just going to come in and thicken up any areas and go over any areas where I want there to be a little bit more product. I did only do one coat of this because the neons are very pigmented, so I didn't feel as though 2 coats was necessary for this step. Now here with the yellow caution, it looked very similar to the glow stick. However, they are very different yellows. The glow stick is a lot more pastel and the yellow caution is your classic yellow color, neon yellow color, sorry. But on camera, it just wasn't picking up the neon as well. But you do see further along when it comes to top coating, and I do some close-ups, you can see the difference between the 2 colors. So I then popped them in to top coat, and this is what they look like so far. So again, you could leave the design at this point. I feel as though it looks quite fun. And again, if you had a thumbnail done in another color, it would pull the whole set together. I decided I wanted to come in and add some little stars. So I'm going to take Kiki London's coconut. I popped some of that down on a palette, and I'm going to start off by just applying a really simple dot to the nail. And then sticking with that strap liner brush, I'm going to pull from the dot outwards and just create the little lines from the stars. These are really simple stars to do, so they're fab if you're a beginner starting out in hand painted nail art and want to add little details like this to the nail. So I decided I would do 2 on each nail. I'm just going to show you doing it on 2 nails because I'm literally repeating the same steps. So you want to make sure when you place your dot down that you apply a generous amount of polish so that you're able to pull out from the center of that star. If you do feel as though you need to add a little bit more polish, then you can just dip the very tip of your strap liner brush into some of the coconut and apply a little bit more. But I found it a little bit easier to make sure that I'd applied enough at this point here whilst I'm placing down that dot. So once again, just popping down that dot and then taking the very tip of the brush and pulling out from it. And if you do need any more polish, you can also pull some more out from the center because you don't want that center dot to be too raised or to have like a blob of gel polish there. Now you could mix this up a little bit and I think do maybe a mix of black and white stars. I think that could look fun as well. But I wanted to keep everything in this set quite light coloured so that it fitted with summer. Now that we've finished those stars, I did do the remaining 2 nails like I said, and then I popped them all into Cure, and this is what they're looking like so far. I really did love how the ballet charm looked matte, but I decided to end up and do a glossy top coat. So I come in with the Kiki London No Wipe rubber top coat. I'm just going to apply a thin layer of this to all of the nails. Like the rubber base coat, the rubber top coat is great for anyone with weak or damaged nails because it's that little bit thicker than your regular kind of top coats. Now because it's that little bit thicker, I do like to make sure that it has self-leveled nicely and that there's a nice smooth layer before I pop it into Cure. So you will sometimes see I pop down a layer and then I'll just come over with my brush just to make sure it's all nice and even. The product itself does self-level nicely, to be honest. Here I had a little bit too much on my brush, so I just wiped that off. Although it's a thicker product, you really don't need to apply loads of it. A thin layer is going to work just as well. You'll see as well that I sometimes rub my finger or my thumb along the very tip of the nail. That's just to make sure that any of the excess gel polish that's pulled at the tip of the nails is wiped away. Please only do this if you have gloves on. Don't be touching your skin with uncured gel polish because it can cause overexposure. I do it because I like to rub off that excess bit of gel polish just to make sure I've got a nice crisp shape. Again, it's a personal preference thing. It's not something you have to necessarily do. I just find that sometimes your top coat can pull at the sides and then it can ruin your shape a little bit. The rubber top coat does require a 60-second cure, so I popped that in to cure for 60 seconds and this is the finished result. Just look at the shine and I love how cute these look. They're definitely a set that I would wear myself. Let me know what you think of these in the comments below and please don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. If you're not already subscribed, I would absolutely love it if you hit that subscribe button and I shall then see you in next Friday's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Lots of love. Bye bye.